Well, we actually know that when we actually do create LGBTIQA plus inclusion, that everybody has a better time in the workplace. So we know that job satisfaction increases, retention, ability to attract talent. So there was some research in the US done that showed that 80% of millennials would prefer to work in an organisation that was proactively LGBTIQA plus inclusive, regardless of whether they themselves were LGBTIQA plus or not. So we know absolutely that this type of work has benefits that go well beyond the individuals for the business. But for me, it's still all about the people. I know what my experiences have been, and I know what the experiences are of my friends and family, and I know we can make a huge difference with workplace inclusion. The workplace was the place where I learnt about my own identity. I didn't come out till I was 36, and I came out and I actually understood who I was because of something that had occurred in my workplace, and my workplace provided a brilliantly safe space for me to explore that before I felt ready to go out and share that with my family and friends. Generally, people are accepting of LGBTIQA plus people, and although it's true that we've moved a long way in terms of creating those safe spaces, there's still significant challenges for LGBTIQA plus people in workplaces, particularly for trans and gender diverse people. And I find that's probably the most challenging thing, to really get people to engage with this in a way that forces them to take action and ask them to not just kind of be good people themselves and think therefore everything is okay, but take proactive action to create inclusion. And so that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And it's not too hard once we get people in a space and we get to talk about and share stories and open people's minds to that. But it can be challenging if we don't get those opportunities to regularly share stories. So yeah, I'd probably say apathy. And there's obviously also a real undercurrent around trans and gender diverse inclusion, because people still have a significant level of fear, perhaps, and a real lack of awareness and understanding. So we need to work hard to raise that and to get people to recognise that gender is not binary. There's not just men and women in the world. There's actually more people who have very different experiences than that. And that we need to proactively seek to include them in our workplaces, because unfortunately, community is still mostly excluding them. So initially I thought no, but then when I thought through it, I thought, well, you know what, there is still a place for an online training course to get people started in the conversation and a meaningful start. So it's not just, here's the acronym, and this is who LGBTIQA plus people are, but it actually could go deeper and more meaningfully into how you create an inclusive space, not just for LGBTIQA plus people, but for people more broadly in workplaces. We know that inclusion initiatives benefit everyone. And so I saw that there was a lot of value, and when I talked through with the team, I realised that they were open to receiving what would be quite significant feedback from me, to really kind of push this online course to a space that perhaps others haven't gone to before. When I got to look through the final version, I'm really happy with what we've created. It's still not a face-to-face training that provides that experience of building that empathy, but I think it's still creating a lot of space for people to think about and personally reflect on their behaviours, their beliefs, their lack of awareness as to what might be some of the challenges their colleagues are facing. And to me, that's the most important part. If somebody does this course and goes, wow, yeah, I never really thought about that through their eyes, and they go and start having more open conversations and maybe taking some actions, then I think it's a win. And I really think that this course absolutely will help people do that. So for me, it's been a great process to actually, I guess, broaden my understanding, because there's a lot of things I had to go and look up, because I would read a script and it would say use a certain term or refer to things in a certain way, or include some categories of different types of behaviours or ways people could be good allies. And things would like not quite feel right to me, but I wouldn't be 100% sure. And during that process, I had to really reflect on, I'm only one person and I only have one lived experience. And sure, I'd spend a lot of time working with LGBTIQA plus employees across Australia, and are constantly in focus groups and hearing their experiences and their challenges and their ideas. But also, I still had to recognise that my knowledge is limited by the experiences that I've had. So I had to work really hard to push myself beyond that and to look at things through a variety of different lenses and reach out and read material and stories from people who had different lived experience to mine, to really be able to build a course that could have the biggest impact. I guess cheekily for me, the work that I do, I'm very passionate about the idea that if organisations are going to do training in inclusion, and say in this case LGBTIQA plus inclusion, they should at exactly the same time have themselves an action plan where they're working actively to create a workplace environment where people can feel safe, supported, and that they belong. That you can't just do training on its own. We know that doesn't work. It can create little moments of inclusion and little nudges, but it doesn't really create the space that we want people to be able to work within. And so for me, I'd actually love to see as an outcome that people do this course and then start really putting pressure on their organisation to do more, to look to see, do we have a gender affirmation process or policy in our organisation? Do we have a culture where we actively are encouraged to call out negative behaviours or comments? Do we specifically call in LGBTIQA plus people in our programs, events, etc. that we run, services that we provide? So I'd really love to see those outcomes, that we start to generate more great allies and advocates within organisations who really can spot those barriers and challenges and ask for change of their leaders.